So, Ross, give us a sense of how exactly this started. To what extent is this over ties to Taiwan versus ties to China by the government?
That's really the key question. And we see a lot of people both in the Solomon Islands and experts in the region or far afield as the United States, really trying to understand the internal dynamics that are going on. Certainly, the switch from Taiwan to China caused a great amount of anger among, we could say, the common folk who may have had some interaction with the Taiwan aid programs. It clearly caused anger among the provincial leaders in Malaita province, who've been very outspoken how they feel about this. There's also a religious element because such a large number of people in the Solomon Islands are fairly observant churchgoers, and obviously communist China not being known for its embrace of religious activities was another factor. But we also have to balance that against what we also know are long-running domestic issues in the Solomon Islands that are not necessarily connected to the switch in relations from Taiwan to China. That includes corruption in the central government level, unequal distribution of budget resources, lack of job opportunities for young people. So the tensions that have existed in the society really predate the China-Taiwan switch in 2019. And as I'm sure many in the audience will also know, that this level of violence in the late 90s, early 2000s also led to the arrival of international security force, we could call them peacekeepers, who did stay for a very long time and only left in recent years. That was also led by Australia. And that was not necessarily linked to China-Taiwan issues. So again, the tensions in society have existed for a long time, but certainly we're also exasperated by the government's decision to switch relations in 2019.
Right, I was just about to bring that up. The fact that that switch happened years ago, and I understand that there are other tensions there, obviously, but when you look at the violence that erupted, and it was pretty severe, it was Chinatown that was targeted, there were Chinese businesses that were burned. So is it a sense that those tensions are being directed towards the China-Taiwan issue?
Well, one of the outcomes of establishing diplomatic relations with China, and this happens in many places around the world, and obviously the Belt and Road leads to a lot of controversy, is when Chinese companies enter a country and they begin to, for example, engage in large infrastructure projects or natural resources projects. And there were examples of both in the Solomon Islands. So it's not just the fact of establishing diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China that leads to tension, but it's the business activity that follows. And typically there's concerns about, again, corruption, also compliance with local laws, whether it's labor law or environmental law. And again, this has all been present over the past 2 years. So again, it's not just the fact of establishing relations, but it's the activities of Chinese companies that might also lead to tensions once they begin to establish their presence in the country.
Exactly, and we saw China reacting to this violence too with concern, given that these were, in many cases, Chinese establishments that were attacked. Is this just one more snapshot of China's influence and China's movements throughout the Pacific?
Well, they've certainly been trying to persuade the remaining countries that have diplomatic relations with Taiwan to make that switch. So in 2019, around the same period of time, not only was the Solomon Islands, but it was also Kiribati made that switch. But certainly there's the obvious strategic military goals that serve China's needs to have a greater presence in larger number of countries. Obviously, their navy has been expanding. They want to sail further and show that they do have that capability. It also is related to being able to block, whether it's the U.S. or other countries, from arriving on the scene should there be a war in the Taiwan Strait or in the South China Sea, Senkaku, Diaoyutai Islands as well. The Chinese side will say this is all peaceful and we're just taking our place in the global community as a large country, one of the largest economies, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, you're absolutely correct. For China, this is all part of a larger strategy. It's not necessarily because they really wanted to be in the Solomon Islands, but it certainly fits into their broader strategic goals.
For sure. All right, Ross Feingold, great to talk to you.